here we are again, and saying to yourself, what is he doing with these rifles and handguns here? Well, actually what I was going to talk about is people ask, what do you collect? And is there any criteria you go through when you're collecting rifles or handguns or whatever? No, not really. A lot of my rifles and handguns, some I've got from, they were family heirlooms, not many of them, but this Colt Army 45 made 1913 is one. This is a family heirloom, and but it's a real Colt. It's not a phony brand, or, I mean, other brands work fine. I mean, like this one from the Rock Island Arsenal, or Armory I should say, that 45, it's a model 1911. And yeah, I added a little something there in the end, just to keep the recoil down a bit. But as it was, it's a modern, firearm. When I bought it, it was $539 when I bought this. Okay, this other one, of course, I didn't pay anything because it's a family heirloom. So you always run into stuff like that, stuff that you have to buy against, well, for instance, this M1 Garand. It's not like the original M1 Garand I bought, because the guy had went ahead and changed the barrel, and the stock was all wrong. He used some kind of armor coat finish that was totally wrong for the rifle. So I ended up having to buy a new stock for it. I should say, not new, a period stock for it. That period stock cost me another $150 on top of the $900 I paid for this. And that was back in 2012 I bought this. So prices have gone crazy everywhere. That's the other problem. What you do, like, some people collect stuff from World War II. For instance, this M39 actually has the same action as the 9130 Mosin Nagant, which uses the same parts, but perfectly serviceable. Then later on, of course, here was the Chinese Type 56 SKS that came out later. And then on this model 1894 Winchester, what you have to remember on these was, if you want to collect these, make sure you don't buy one that's made after 1964, because this one here was made in 1950 and all the parts are machined. After 64, they were all stamped. They were not machined again. So these Winchesters and the older ones before them are actually more solid than the newer ones that came out after 64. And perfectly serviceable. No problem at all with these. Probably last forever. Got parts for it if I ever need any. This one, when I bought this one, I bought this back in, let's see, when I got here in 2013, I paid $695 for that. It's worth quite a bit more than that now. But same thing with buying all this stuff and collecting. The thing with collecting is you try to get the most you can for your money. Try and get the best condition. For instance, this Remington Model 48, this was made in 1948. This is one I bought for my uncle for about $150 back in 1970. It's worth quite a bit more than that if you can find one in this condition. There's very little wear and bluing at all. Everything in here is perfectly solid, and basically as much as I shoot it, it'll probably last forever too. And then you got to decide, do I want to get something that's, say, by nothing but rifles made during World War II, you know? Well, now, unfortunately, with the advent of video games and everything else, the prices on these things are starting to go sky high. I mean, I have a couple of Mosin 9130s that one cost me $89 back in 1975, and I bought one here in Reno for $169 back in 2013, and now those things are going for almost 500 bucks if you can find one. I mean, they're starting to dry up. People just grabbing them. But yeah, so it all depends on what you really want. Are you looking for something that's of historical interest to you? You know, that's why I have 3 Martini Henry rifles made between 1878 and 1887, because basically they're a historical rifle. You may want to collect something made in, you know, in the 1860s. Who knows? But those are kind of few and far between. And the other problem with those is things get kind of pricey. So, yeah, so you have to go ahead and decide what you want to collect, what kind of money you want to spend on a collection, and that sort of determines how much you're going to get. And then also the other thing you have to remember, do you want to get rifles, especially, or handguns and anything, all numbers matching? If it's all numbers matching and is in decent condition, it's worth a lot more than if there's a mismatch of parts. So those are the things you have to remember. I mean, there's a lot of things you have to remember, and then of course you have to have the storage. Of course, then you have to go ahead and you have to go ahead and pretty much buy stuff because it's got to be legal. Everything has to be legal. I have paperwork for everything I buy. I even, you know, I had to go ahead and do a background check every single time I went and bought a rifle, except after the time that I went ahead and got my federal firearms license. After that, then I just have a license. I show that, and I'm listed with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So anything they want to know, also with the police department, I have my paperwork on file with the sheriff's department, so they can find out anything they want to on me. It doesn't make any difference. Everything's legal. The only thing with my license is I cannot sell anything in my collection. I can, you know, will it to family members after I die, but that's about it. Other than that, that's what it's good for. And actually, a federal firearms collector's and relics license costs $30 for 3 years, and it's renewable every 3 years. A lot different than a federal firearms license. A federal firearms license, you have to keep a lot of paperwork. It costs you $200 a year, and there's just a lot of stuff to go through. You have to have a lot of paperwork to go through, and it's, for me, it's just too much of a hassle. I wouldn't do it. So anyhow, just want to show you some of those things and give you an idea what you should be able to look for, and that should be it for now. And we'll come back later, some other time. I'll probably show you some more guns, I don't know. So that's going to be it for now. The dog is going nutso. We'll see you guys later.